Europe and Russia. Two civilizations, deeply intertwined, yet perpetually caught between cooperation and conflict. From the Byzantine Empire to the Napoleonic Wars, the echoes of this complex relationship reverberate through the ages. Peter the Great's efforts to westernize Russia in the 18th century exemplify this enduring tension. The Cold War cast a long shadow over Europe-Russia relations. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 offered a glimmer of hope for a new era of cooperation. However, the post-Cold War optimism proved short-lived, reigniting old tensions. Despite their tumultuous history, Europe and Russia are bound together by strong ties of interdependence. Russia, with its vast natural resources, has long been a crucial energy supplier to Europe. Oil and gas pipelines crisscross the continent, highlighting the economic ties that bind them. However, political and security concerns continue to cast a shadow over this interdependence. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and its ongoing actions in eastern Ukraine sent shockwaves through Europe. The EU's commitment to democracy, human rights and the rule of law stands in stark contrast to the increasingly authoritarian nature of the Russian state. This clash of values lies at the heart of their current predicament. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine represents a watershed moment in Europe-Russia relations. Russia's actions, widely condemned by the international community, have shattered the fragile peace that existed in Europe since the end of the Cold War. The annexation of Crimea, a Ukrainian territory with a majority Russian population, sent shockwaves through the international system. The conflict in eastern Ukraine, where Russian-backed separatists have been fighting Ukrainian government forces, further escalated tensions. Europe's response to the Ukraine crisis has been a mix of condemnation, sanctions, and attempts at diplomacy. The EU, along with the United States and other Western allies, imposed economic sanctions on Russia. The Ukraine conflict has had a profound impact on Europe's security calculus. It has exposed the continent's vulnerabilities and forced European leaders to rethink their defense posture. The Ukraine crisis has confronted Europe with a complex strategic challenge. European leaders recognize the need to deter further Russian aggression and uphold the principles of international law. The EU's response has been characterized by a delicate balancing act. It has sought to punish Russia for its actions while leaving the door open for future engagement. The economic sanctions imposed on Russia have undoubtedly had an impact on its economy. However, they have not succeeded in changing Russia's behavior in Ukraine. Europe has also stepped up its support for Ukraine, providing financial assistance, military equipment, and training to Ukrainian forces. The EU's strategic dilemma is further complicated by the lack of consensus among member states on how to deal with Russia. The energy dilemma, dependence and diversification. Europe's dependence on Russian energy has long been a source of vulnerability. Russia is a major supplier of natural gas to the EU, accounting for around 40% of its total imports. This dependence has given Russia significant leverage over Europe. The Ukraine crisis has brought the issue of energy security into sharp focus. European leaders have realized that their reliance on Russian gas makes them vulnerable to political pressure from Moscow. In response, they have launched a series of initiatives aimed at reducing this dependence. The EU is seeking to increase imports of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, from other suppliers, such as the United States and Qatar. It is also investing in renewable energy sources such as wind and solar power. However, reducing Europe's dependence on Russian energy is a long-term challenge, requiring significant investment in new infrastructure. The sanction battlefield, economic warfare and its limits. Economic sanctions have become the weapon of choice in the West's response to Russian aggression. Following the annexation of Crimea and the outbreak of conflict in eastern Ukraine, the EU, along with the United States and other allies, imposed a series of sanctions targeting key sectors of the Russian economy. These sanctions have ranged from asset freezes and travel bans on individuals close to the Kremlin to restrictions on trade and investment in Russia's energy, financial and defense sectors. While the sanctions have undoubtedly had an impact on the Russian economy, their effectiveness in altering the Kremlin's behavior has been limited. Russia has responded with counter-sanctions targeting imports of food and other goods from the West. The use of economic sanctions as a tool of foreign policy is a complex and controversial issue. Their effectiveness depends on a range of factors, including the target country's economic structure and the willingness of other countries to cooperate. Inside out, the Kremlin and the future of Russia. Understanding the future of Europe's relationship with Russia requires peering into the opaque world of the Kremlin. President Vladimir Putin's grip on power remains firm, but the country faces a multitude of challenges that will shape its trajectory in the years to come. Russia's economy, heavily reliant on energy exports, has been hit hard by Western sanctions and volatile oil prices. This has fueled popular discontent and raised questions about the long-term sustainability of the current political and economic model. The spectre of social unrest looms large. While Putin has been adept at suppressing dissent, economic hardship and a shrinking space for political opposition could eventually lead to a boiling point. The future course of Russia remains uncertain, with profound implications for European security and stability. The global chessboard, Europe, Russia, and the world. The relationship between Europe and Russia cannot be viewed in isolation. It is intricately linked to the broader geopolitical landscape, where shifting alliances and emerging powers are reshaping the global balance of power. The rise of China, with its growing economic and military might, presents both opportunities and challenges for both Europe and Russia. The United States, despite its waning influence, remains a key player in European security. The transatlantic alliance, though strained by internal divisions and differing strategic priorities, remains a cornerstone of European defense. In this complex and rapidly evolving global environment, Europe and Russia face a choice. Will they allow their differences to define their relationship, or will they find ways to cooperate on issues of common interest? Bridging the divide, scenarios for the future. Predicting the future of Europe's relationship with Russia is a fool's errand. However, by examining the key drivers and potential scenarios, we can gain a better understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. One scenario is a continuation of the current trajectory, characterized by confrontation, mistrust, and a hardening of divisions. Another possibility is a gradual thaw in relations, driven by a combination of factors, such as a change in leadership in Russia or a resolution of the conflict in Ukraine. A more optimistic scenario envisions a reset in relations, based on mutual respect and a willingness to cooperate on issues of common interest. The most pessimistic scenario involves a major escalation of tensions, potentially leading to military conflict. The future of Europe's relationship with Russia will depend on the choices made by leaders in Moscow, Brussels, and other capitals around the world. Towards a new equilibrium, managing expectations. The relationship between Europe and Russia is entering a new chapter, one defined by uncertainty, complexity, and the need for a fundamental reassessment. Europe must abandon any illusions of returning to the status quo ante. Russia, under Putin's leadership, has demonstrated its willingness to challenge the existing international order and use force to achieve its objectives. At the same time, Europe cannot afford to isolate Russia entirely. Despite its authoritarian turn and aggressive foreign policy, Russia remains a major power with a significant impact on European security and stability. Europe must be prepared to deter and defend against Russian aggression, while also leaving the door open for dialogue and cooperation on issues of common interest. By embracing a pragmatic and principled approach, Europe can navigate this complex relationship and contribute to a more stable and secure future.